Welcome to Kevin and Tanisha's Mix It Up.
Where we're going to discuss everything from our family and friends.
Oops. You need to...
What?
Don't sound like you're in the auditorium.
I just tried to do that.
Okay.
Check.
All right. Welcome to Kevin and Tanisha's Mix It Up.
Where we're going to discuss everything from our similarities and differences.
Family and friends.
Son and daughter.
Home and work.
And how it all impacts our marriage, parenting, relationships, faith, and beyond.
Let's mix it up.
Welcome back to Mix It Up with Kevin and Tanisha. We're back for another episode, another week of Mix It Up. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in, sharing, subscribing, rating, all of that good stuff.
Thank you so much.
For sure. We definitely appreciate everyone who's listening. Hope that you're getting something from it. If not, just
a good laugh,
being entertained. And, you know, we're obviously getting something from doing this as well. So Tanisha's going to let us know what today's all about.
This episode is something that is continuously growing within me, and I would say within Kevin as well. As you get older and you mature, you start to identify things that have value to you that you once wasn't aware of. And what you can bring or offer to your spouse or your friends or your family, or even those of you that have children. And those things I would identify as your roots or family traditions, the core values that you have or that have been given to you by your family, friends, and loved ones, and how that creates new memories, new traditions, or continuous traditions within your own family.
Cool. So we'll get into all of that as we do. Tanisha had to lean away from the mic to take a big breath just now because she's identified that she's a heavy breather.
I'm not a heavy breather.
A loud laugher.
Yeah. Don't.
All right. Well, first thing we're going to do is get into a quick game that we made up. We have both identified three things that we identified. Yeah, 6 things total. 3 things that we love about ourselves. Mm-hmm. 3 things that we would change about ourselves.
Yeah.
And the other person is going to guess what those 3 things are. So,
you want to go first?
Yeah. All right. So I would say the first thing that you love about yourself is your hair. Okay. Another thing that you love about yourself is your openness.
Okay.
And the last thing would be your smile.
Okay. So I don't really like my hair. I mean, I like my hair, but it's not something that I love because it's extra work. But you did get my honesty and openness, right?
Hey.
And you did get my smile.
There we go.
So you got 2 out of 3. Look at you.
What was the third one?
My boundaries.
I
love that I'm consistent with my boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I worked really hard for those.
I would all this work that you've put into your hair, though, I would have assumed it has grown into something that you do love.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I love my locks, but I decided to lock my hair under something that was more of a life-changing event. So, versus something that I've just naturally love about myself.
What was the life-changing event?
after every child, I go through this like gaining my body back, and I decided, to lock my hair. And I mean, when you and I've talked about it, I want Ava to love her curls and never feel the desire to change it. So this allows me to say this is naturally how my hair.
Right.
So
how long have they been locked?
It's 3 years.
Hey.
Yeah.
3 years. You should do some before. You should, when you hit the 3-year mark, do the like beginning and end.
Yeah.
Post on IG.
That would be crazy.
All right. So what did I write down?
All right. So the 3 things that you love about yourself are you love your creativity. You love to make people laugh. So jokes. And
I am funny.
You think you're funny. And the last one I would say is you love, I don't know. Your eyes.
Hey. All right. So
did I get them right?
Kind of. You missed one, but I was struggling with this because I don't know. I did write down my eyes first, and I feel like I only wrote that down because other people love that about me. So what is the root of what I really love about that? I don't know if I really care about my eyes or if I just get attention because of my eyes.
I guess it would be, do you care that you get compliments?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that I love that my eyes were something positive that I got a lot of attention about growing up. Not a lot of people like walk up to a grown man and say, "You have pretty eyes." Now, don't get me wrong.
They're
like,
all over 50.
They do, but once you get to know them. But like at growing up, literally like random people that you've never seen before will come up to a little boy with pretty eyes and tell him and pinch his cheeks and tell his parents. And my mom's like, "I can't hear you." I don't. Why are you talking to my son?
That's nice. Yeah.
So I did write down my eyes. I did write down my creativity. Okay. I do love that, and I agree. I do love that I'm funny. But I kind of lumped that in with my creativity, I guess.
Oh.
It takes a lot to just be funny. Like, it's not easy. So
it does take a lot to be funny if you're not naturally funny. That's what I'm saying.
You're saying I am naturally funny?
I'm saying you're not, but I know that's something that you love. So
I'm saying you're a hater. You just don't understand my humor. That's the thing here.
Maybe. Who cares?
The last one, I would say, the last one I wrote down was, I love my beard. And not that I always have a beard.
You have had some kind of facial hair since you were like 7. For sure. That makes sense. I didn't think about that.
The fact that I can grow it. Yeah. I love that I can decide at any point to just,
I wish you would cut that up.
Do something different. I'm deciding to do something different right now.
Okay.
So, all right. So what about the things you would change? You want me to go now?
Yeah, you can go.
I would say the things you would change about yourself. You would get laser hair removal
on my legs.
So that's one of them?
No, but I would.
Oh, okay. That's not one of them.
No.
So do I get an extra guess?
Yeah.
You would change your facial expressions.
Okay.
You would change your extremely large shoe size.
Okay.
And you would change your... This might not be on there, but I'm going with it. Okay. It needs to change. It needs to improve your balance.
Oh, God.
And I think your son gets his balance from you. It's weird. He can ride a skateboard, but he can't walk. And you can walk, but you can't skate.
I can't skate. Okay. So, okay. So you got 1 out of 3, right?
1 out of 3.
Yeah. So you did get the shoe size. One of the things I would change is my second long toe.
That boy is long.
That, but I got it from my grandma, so I can't really complain. But
that's something I noticed when we were like young in the summer. I was like, why is my
toe so long?
Why is her toe hanging off of her sandal?
Shut up! My toe never hung off of my sandal.
Why is her toe poking the front of those Melissas? The toe is just jamming into the front of her shoes.
God, stop it! And the second thing I would change is not. You said facial expressions. I said not being a morning person. And then
that has changed though.
Right.
I feel like you used to be a morning person and now you're not.
And I don't like it. Yeah. And balance, I probably should have definitely put that considering what happened this week, but I put my consistency. Like, I hate the fact that one change can throw me off kilt, and I just don't go back.
Yeah. Well, for those that don't know, which is probably most people, Tanisha's been limping around the house for the past 3 days because
God,
she
fell.
She got some roller skates for her birthday. I don't know why she wanted roller skates. I have no idea because I knew this was coming.
Oh my God!
Especially roller skating on a sidewalk and on the street.
I never made it to the street.
Well, this is not so you've fallen a total of 2 times.
2 times.
But this time
took me out.
Tanisha she's about 6'6" when she got the skates on.
Oh my God.
So you know what they say, the taller you are, the harder you fall. I don't think that's what they say.
No, they don't say that. But it was a fall hard.
It was a fall, and she fell right on her butt.
Hard fall, I meant. It was
a fall hard.
It was a hard fall.
Right on her butt, and now she can't walk around the house.
It's bad.
Yep.
I had to roll into the grass.
And lay until I came outside. It was like an old lady that needed a life alert button but left it inside the house.
I did.
Where's my life alert?
So, yeah. All right. So, I would say the 3 things you dislike about yourself would be...
I don't know if I dislike them.
3 areas you would like to improve would be your teeth.
You're firing shots.
Oh.
That's rough when you don't write that down.
I just thought it would be on there. You always talk about it. Your consistency. No.
Keep going.
And I would say your... I don't even know how to say it. You working out more. I don't know. That's the only way I could say it.
So we've identified the 3 things that Tanisha wants me to change about myself. My weight, my teeth, and my consistency.
No, that's not true.
So if you want to chime in as well, then feel free. I'll just be everyone's punching bag.
Stop it. Those are the things you talk about all the time.
Yeah. So, no, I would change all of those things. I didn't write those things down.
What did you write down?
I wrote down, I guess similar to you, I'll get rid of this unibrow.
Okay.
I would fix my hairline because ever since I passed out and had to get stitches on the right side of my hairline, it just kind of crooked now where the stitches were and just be throwing me off. I'll be having to tilt my head to the right to be like, oh yeah, that looks good. So, and the last thing I said would be like my connections. I guess the ease of making connections with others. It's so easy for you, and like we've talked about before on the podcast, it's not my strong suit.
Yeah, I understand that.
So,
But
and
all
then
the
I
things I
guess
just said
we'll
that
just
you could
add
improve.
those
No,
three
they could
things.
all fall under your connections.
I'll lose weight. People will.
People at the gym. You talk to people.
I'm straight.
Okay.
I don't want to talk that out. Well,
I thought you would have put two. You being a hypochondriac.
I mean, I would definitely change that. It just didn't come to my mind because I didn't want to start thinking about all the things that were wrong with me.
Oh
But now
God.
I'm thinking about all the things that
Stop it.
I'm going through. I probably got cancer.
Yeah, stop. So, all right. Well, that was cool.
It was cool because you're cool. So these are all things that, we've learned about ourselves, and some of these things have been with us since we were born, like my unibrow, and others we have grown to like know about ourselves and understand that, oh, it's difficult for me to make connections, or
I can't change my second long toe.
Can't change that, or I've identified that it's easy for Tenisha. She's identified that it's easy for her to set these boundaries and stick with them. So they can all, things that we know about ourselves. They can come from our roots and how we were raised, and they can also just come from living.
Mm-hmm.
So we've learned a lot of things about ourselves before our marriage and through our marriage, and some of these things that we want to hold on to, and some that are or have been willingly changed. So what we're going to do today is just explore some of those things and really how they have impacted our relationship, or how we plan to have them impact our relationship in the future.
And kind of things that we hope that our children will see value in, and when they have families, they decide to carry those on as well. I think that's important to have some kind of tradition or a legacy within your family that everyone knows that this is just what we do.
Yeah.
So,
and that's,
I know the meaning behind it. Not so much like we do this, and I don't really know why, but we do it.
And that's something that we really have come to make a point that we want to have in our family, and that we want our kids to have. And through probably this conversation, you'll understand why. So the first question that I have is, when we first met and we're getting to know each other and starting to understand each other, what were the things that you thought were my roots?
So, yeah, one of the things that I identified as maybe a value, and later learned that it was a root in your family. Well, not so much. Well, are you okay if I talk about like just you and your mom, because your dad never went to church? Okay. Is that? Oh, yeah. Sorry. One of the things that I identified as one of the roots in your family was faith in going to church, specifically with you and your mom. I know that you would go to church with your mom, and you guys would stay after church, and you guys were heavily involved in different groups and programs within your church. And also, when you were with your friends, you would also attend their churches as well. So usually when you go over a friend's house, you don't really go to church with them, or you come home before that, because that's just, a way not to go to church. At least that was my experience. So I would say that would be one of them. I would also say having people around, and friends specifically, is something that your family valued. Like your mom always made sure there was things for people to do, or had events prepared and food ready, because she enjoyed entertaining, I assume. or enjoyed having you have people over, you having people over. Um, that's really it. You never really talked much about your family. Those were just merely observations that I gathered over time.
Yeah, those were definitely two things that helped shape me. And, unfortunately, I wish there was way more obvious roots than that. Roots and family traditions and all of that, they're not something that we really had growing up. We didn't, yeah, like we celebrated holidays, but we didn't have any, big fun family events, family reunions. There just wasn't a lot of connection between my parents and their siblings. They both have a lot of siblings, and it's kind of weird that we're not connected in that way. For my dad to have six siblings, and technically me to have a bunch of uncles and an aunt, like, and a bunch of aunts, and they're all married, they all got their own families. Like, in my mind, it was always weird that we weren't as connected, and didn't have like family things because their family was huge, but I think it was just something. It's just character, not a character flaw, but like just a part of my dad that he's just like a loner. Like he's always just wanted to do his own thing. He was the oldest. He was the oldest child, and his youngest brother is like 20 some 30 years, between 20 and 30 years younger than him. So
Wow, yeah.
um he just they just weren't as connected to each other, I guess, and that carried through when they all like grew up and whatever. We just weren't connected. And similarly with my mom, she wasn't. She grew up with a disability, and I think that probably impacted her relationship with her siblings. She grew up. She was hard of hearing, and you know, eventually like deaf, and I don't know, her siblings never learned sign language. She didn't even learn it for a long time. It wasn't something that they put value on, being
Yeah.
able to communicate effectively. So I'm sure that, didn't help the family dynamic. And I think because of those things, we just didn't have a lot of family traditions outside of our house. And inside of our house, it was just like holidays and stuff that every family pretty much does at
Yeah.
home. And my dad had a disability as well. He lost his leg in a motorcycle accident before I was born. So there's a lot of things that we just didn't create or didn't do together because of that. And we didn't go out and play ball, or everything we did was pretty much at the house or um, whatever. And that's what my mom, I think, recognized those things and made it a point for us to be involved in church. Is something that she found um, for her that was really beneficial, and um, dragged me along for the most part. I won't say that I was always willingly there. And then we didn't live in a neighborhood, so she definitely made it a point to make sure that um, that I had connections to other people my age and friends and getting them over, and that was real important for me growing up.
That's good. So, what would you say are mine?
I noticed, right off the jump that there was, connection to family, and I learned early on that your family situation was very different than a lot of family situations, and
Yeah.
but uh, it made me realize and really understand from the jump that you had a really strong connection with family,
Mm-hmm.
because even though you had some hard, some difficult things happen with your mom and your dad and weren't technically with them, you were still with your family. And going back to that first episode of how we met, I met you when you were with your uncle and staying at your grandma's house, and just for a 2-week period in the summer, like you go to your grandma's house every summer and spend time with that side of your family. And then as we talked more, quickly saw that, oh, you got this other side of your family that you live with, and you got cousins, and you got sisters here and brothers there. You got sister cousins, and you got real sisters and real brothers, and they're here. And then you go to your grandma's house over here and spend time, and there's just this big connection to family, and you guys did things as a family. One of the first things I remember doing with you was going to like cookout or something at family reunion at Jackson Lake.
Yeah.
And that was like, I had never been to a family reunion before that. And it was like, I knew family reunions existed because of movies like Big Mama's House. Like, I don't know if there's a family reunion in that, but it was like, oh, like this isn't, you have extended family and they actually know you, and you have cousins and second cousins and third cousins, and y'all are playing, and people are, I mean, you weren't playing.
No.
You didn't play. You didn't really have fun.
No.
You kind of just sat. I remember we sat in a van while everybody else was having fun.
No, we went.
We sat in the air-conditioned van. We sat in your mom's air-conditioned van.
Because it was hot.
It was hot. But that was like a big thing. Like, I could tell, even if it wasn't instilled in you yet, that family was a big thing, and that it's something that I never had I had a big family, but we just weren't connected. So it's something that was definitely appealing to me. It was like, oh, like I could be a part of this big extended family and have these connections with a lot of people. So that was cool. And I definitely, and a big part of that family, I could tell, was church. And everybody, I went to church with you for the first time and saw all the same people that I saw at Jackson Lake.
Yeah.
Everybody was at the same church. Everybody went to the same church. And everybody spent about 12 hours every Sunday at that church. You had breakfast at the church. You had lunch at the church, and you came back to the church after dinner. And then on New Year's, you stayed. You spent the night at the church.
We didn't spend the night.
I mean, pretty much, you had breakfast. New Year's breakfast at 1 a.m. While I was out at high school lock-ins. So definitely could tell that there was a heavy influence of that, and of just Christianity in general. But really, to me, from the outside looking in, it always seemed like it was a lot more about family. Like even church seemed like the connection to church was family.
Yeah.
And that's just what I noticed mostly.
I would agree with that.
And food.
I was going to say, we do a lot of cookouts, and we do a lot of, so one of the things that I would also say is family as it relates to, like, I know earlier in the pod I had talked about us having to sometimes stand to eat, where when I was growing up, we all ate dinner at the table together every night. It did not matter how anybody was feeling. That was just one of the things that we did. And we always had Sunday dinner. And my grandma came over, or rather it was grab a plate or come in and sat and ate. And my aunts always came over. So.
Yeah, that's super interesting too, because I remember that's always something that I didn't know that I wanted until experiencing it and being like, oh, we only eat together on holidays. Like the dining room table. The dining room is a storage area
Yeah.
until the holidays.
No.
And really, my best friend growing up, that was my first like introduction into like family cookouts. And we, we're gonna have a cooked meal every Sunday. Now they didn't sit at the table, but everybody,
That was your intro.
it was a cooked meal every Sunday. It wasn't frozen pizza or hot pockets like every week, and I would go over there every week to get food and hang out and just have a good time. And that translated to me doing the same thing at your mama's house.
Exactly.
So,
to the point where we're married and my mom is still making you meals because they have this perception that I don't cook meat for you because I'm a vegetarian. But I think that's something that is that's like very generational. Like my grandma did that. Now my mom does it. Now Keela does, my sister does it. Now I do it. I mean, people really don't, they take my food, but they don't eat it. And I think that's just one of the things that I don't know why. I don't know if it was like we they find comfort. I don't really know. But it's something that has definitely carried on. So, I mean, I think that's definitely an accurate depiction of my family as it pertains to what our foundation and our roots were. And then some of the traditions I would say is that my mom always cooks breakfast for Christmas Day, and she does Christmas dinner, and then she does cookouts in the summer. And I or my sister have now started to rotate Thanksgiving because my grandma's getting older. So I think that's the other thing is that also roots can be evolving. They say this should be carried down. I think we're now starting to see that happen as our family, some of our key family members get older and they can no longer do those things.
Yeah. And I think it's been something that it's kind of weird because it's been hard for, I think, my mom, for me at such a young age and for so long now to have like bounced, and wanted to tap into somebody else's family roots. And I've tried to explain in the past, it's just like, Mom, like we don't do anything. What do you want me to be here for? Like, I get it. It is that difficult. You obviously want to spend holidays with your families and, you want to be with your kids on holidays, but, it's that it was always hard for me to be like, I could be here with all of these people.
Yeah.
And never get bored. Like there's always somebody to have a conversation with or somebody to laugh with or something to do. Or I could be at home with my mom and dad. And, I know that's important,
Right.
but it doesn't so I have to make that decision. And I've always made a decision, even when we were young, like, all right, I got to go home now, but, or we got to go stop by my mom's house. Like, I hate that it feels like we're checking a box, but it's just that, that family, that root, was so important to you and then became so important to me as I got connected with these people.
I mean, yeah, I would. And I think also is knowing that, when two become one, rather, it's my family coming to your events or your family coming to mine, there should be some shared investment. My family, my stuff's mainly at my parents' house, but we've always opened the door for your mom and for your dad to come over and be a part of our traditions and our family. And she has, and my aunts invite her to their kids and stuff, and I don't even know it. And that's a beautiful thing, because that's something that you want to see happening authentically, and not feel like it's being looked down upon if you don't invite that person. So I agree with that. I will say too, though, one of the things that, and I won't ignore this, that my family was surprised by is the fact that you were white, and that my first boyfriend was a white boy who lived on 104 on the south side and went to Marin Franklin. Like, they were completely surprised by that. I even remember, my grandma's from Birmingham, Alabama. I remember her saying, "You dating this white boy?" And I didn't know what to say, because race had never been a topic in our household. So I was very taken back by the fact that there was questions, if that makes sense.
So you never caught on, like, I guess if they were, I don't know if they felt some type of way, but if they were perplexed by it,
They were
then
definitely perplexed.
yeah. But if race was never a topic, then why? Was it just insinuated? Was it just that you're never around white people ever, except for a little bit of them when you go to school? Is that it? Or
Probably, and I would just say that maybe another thing would be, there wasn't any other thoughts, like some things just never cross your mind, regardless of circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, I it is interesting to me too that you to never have been around white people, to not have,
I don't want to say never.
I mean, but not in your circle. Like, there weren't white people at your family cookouts or your family reunions or your church or
yeah,
events.
only two places that
yeah, home and church. That's the only thing you did.
I went to work.
Okay, but that was after we already knew each other.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is interesting that you let me in in that way. And it might just be, I don't know if it's my charm or just the way that we were introduced, that I was connected, to people that you were connected to. Like, I had a I don't know.
I mean, if it wasn't for my uncle, by no means would I've ever been like,
gave me a shot, right?
Yeah,
Even
no.
though he wasn't like in my corner, hype man in me, like, yeah, you should talk to Kevin. You should, like, I'm sure he never did that.
Honestly, he said out of all my friends, he would be the only one you could talk to. He made it clear that we were not to talk to any of his friends.
Why do you think they had that thought then? Do you think it was more church related, like the messages that were coming from the church, or just life experience in general?
I think it was just it was just a surprise.
Yeah.
I mean, even to today, people are like, "Your husband's black? I mean, your husband's white?"
Right.
Like, they'll say that to me, and I'm like, "Yeah, my husband's white."
Yeah.
I never would have thought your husband was white. It's like, yeah. I never would have thought my husband was white either. Just
so no, I mean, that's real. I think that is a route that is pretty clear when you think about it. Then why would you abandon that route? Because if it was such a surprise, that means it's unexpected.
Definitely unexpected, but I think that there are things where unexpected but still welcoming. No one chastised me or made me feel like I was doing something wrong.
Yeah.
It was merely, this is a surprise.
Yeah.
We'll see how he treats her.
Right.
You know. I mean, my dad told you that he was going to shoot your kneecaps off the first time he seen you in a parking lot in the middle of the night. Like it was just one of those things where we're going to see where this goes, but best believe you mess up one time.
You think he would have said that to anybody though?
I think it was elevated a little bit.
That's interesting.
But I definitely think he would have said it to anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, he on Hiawatha.
Yeah. That's and I took offense to that.
Okay.
I mean, as a kid, like I did. I was like, bro, what?
But that's the thing. Like, I think it was one of those things where if you're going to do this, you better be prepared for what's to come.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to date my black daughter, you better be prepared for what's to come.
It's just an interesting twist that this is kind of the way it happened in our relationship. And I think if I was like super engaged with my family at large, it would have been probably the same scenario. None of these people are people outside of my mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
None of these people are people that I cared about so deeply or had these like deep relationships with. It was just like, oh, you found out my girlfriend was black, and it was like, I only see you twice a year, so I don't really have to care what your opinion is one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
And for my parents, it just wasn't unexpected because I had, they, like you said earlier, I was inviting people over, and I have friends over every weekend, and my mom and dad got acquainted real quick that all of Kevin's friends are black.
Mm-hmm.
And that just was what it was. It wasn't, I never had intentions of being like, I don't like white people. I only have black friends. It just where I went, where I went to school, who I was connected to, that it just was what it was. And so me having a black girlfriend was no different than me having a black best friend, and to be honest, we literally never talked about it until, other people in my family brought it up when we were at those things, which led to me just really not being connected to them at all.
Yeah, I find it really interesting that we had those type of interactions at a very young age, and still decided to keep moving forward. What was it like for you as a white man entering into my life and my family's life and our traditions and our expectations of how we navigate life?
Yeah. No, I mean, it was very similar to what it was like with the rest of my friends. Like, I have been really, I had a lot of just like regular friendships where you didn't spend a lot of time with your friends, but I had a couple really close friendships where I spent a lot of time with my friends' families, and really, they thought of me as a part of their family, and I felt the same way, so I already felt like I had this extended family that just so happened not to be the same race as me.
Mm-hmm.
I had deeper connections with maybe their parents and their grandparents than I did with my own.
Mm-hmm.
Like I considered, then called them grandma and mom and, auntie, like, and I had real deep connections. So it wasn't different for me. Like, it just took me building those connections with the people in your family, and them getting to know me, and me being funny, and them enjoying my humor and being connected to me. That's really what it took. And for one side of your family, and the other side of your family, I was already somewhat connected to through, my relationship with your uncle and aunt. And it was more, and like you said, they accepted me and got to know me. And, we helped raise a child together. We helped raise your younger sister because she was always under us.
Yes.
Her role every time I came over,
her role was to sit in between us.
Her role was to sit in between us.
Yep.
And she took it
serious.
So serious. And
yeah.
But because she was always in between us,
she still.
Yeah. We have just a very deep relationship. Not just you with her because she's your sister and she slept in your bed.
Yeah.
But she's
my baby.
Yeah, and she was always around me because I was always around you, and that's a really cool relationship that I got to build and have through your family. But I would more say it was maybe the extended family or the church family that made it a little more difficult or challenged the race a little bit more. They didn't. Probably because they don't have to see you every day or like deal with your feelings about it. They can just throw all this out there and let you live with it and let you ponder. But there's a handful of times where you would tell me that people would say that that you shouldn't be with him, or you need to be with a black man, and things that I guess were hurtful at the time because it was like, oh, you're messing up my chances here. Like, you got to chill out. But things that now growing up, like, I definitely understand.
Yeah.
Definitely understand where they're coming from. And, I can't say that I wouldn't say the same thing to my own daughter. Like, you need to be with someone, not a black man or not a mixed man. You need to be with someone that understands who you are and why you are who you are. And that's, what I think a lot of people were getting at, and maybe sometimes why people weren't as willing to talk to me or whatever, or connect with me. But for the most part, it was just a fear that I didn't understand what it meant to be a black woman or a black person in America, that no matter what, a white man will never get it. And, and I get that. I definitely get that. And it just so happens that, there are a little bit of differences where, because of the culture that I was raised in and the things that I did and the people that I were connected to, I had a little more understanding of that, and I did get it a little bit more than maybe some other people. Definitely more than my parents, more than other maybe people that I went to school with. That
Yeah.
But that's kind of how it was for me. What was it like for you? I mean, I can only remember one family thing that we did together.
It was my first and my last.
Yeah. And that was like, for me, like, it's so funny because family, that just wasn't a thing that we did. But in my mind, it was like, oh, I should introduce her to my family, and I got to go to this family thing this weekend. And
it was awful. Yeah. I felt like, you want people to look at you when you walk into the room, to acknowledge that you came in, but not to the. It was like yeah.
They slant, like the brakes got slammed.
Like, he just brought this black girl in his house, and then like, I don't eat everyone's food, so having to decline the meal because I was saving my appetite for my mom's dinner, and that being an insult. So it was not a good experience. I think that was the first time I was ever the only Black person in a room.
Yeah.
And that was very uncomfortable. And it was very awakening, honestly, because it was like, I don't know if this is something I'm gonna have to get used to.
Right.
Like, I'm gonna have to see this out. And it wasn't to that standard, but in other areas of my life, I have definitely been the only Black person in the room. So
And to have that experience is like, that was a very uncomfortable experience for you at the time more than me, but also for me because I knew you were uncomfortable.
mhm.
That was an uncomfortable experience then, but something that you can look back to like, well, if I didn't have that experience then, how would I have handled when I had this experience later? And
Mhm.
there those residual effects of how the relationship that we had impacted other parts of our lives as we grew up. Um,
Yeah, and I
was
think it
cool.
was like I wasn't going to say anything to you, but you acknowledged it first, which allowed me to see that you also didn't think it was okay.
Right.
Because if you did, I'm sure there would have been some issues,
Yeah. Or there
Um,
just would have been expectations of like, no, it was fine. Everything was good.
mhm.
And then like, we should do this again. And,
Yeah.
it was just, oh, yeah, that didn't go well.
Mhm.
And it just never happened again.
So yeah, I think that was the first time. And after that, all the family events that transpired on your side of the family were just you, your mom, and your
Mm-hmm.
dad, and your dog at the time, um, who I identified as your brother. But I I think that was enough for me to see.
So with these roots, how we've talked about where we've gotten our roots from, and we've talked about how they've kind of impacted our marriage and relationship. What do we see? How do we see these impacting our future, or what are we taking with this?
I mean, I think thus far we've taken, religion and family, um, and put it as the foundation of our household. I think we've also taken the openness
Mm-hmm.
that my family and your mom has um, instilled in us and brought it into our family. Um, I think one of the things that you and I have decided to make um, a foundation for our household is positive communication, um, and healthy exploration, which weren't things that was given.
Mm-hmm.
So
Say more about that.
about
What do you mean, like healthy exploration?
um, like we allow our kids to identify and explore their feelings and their thoughts but understanding not to be disrespectful. So being mindful of their tone and their deliverance, because I think that those are important things to instill in your children as while they're young. That way, when they become older, they can identify their thoughts, their feelings, anything that they feel is not right. Um, and also being active. Like I was not active, clearly.
Not clearly,
We
but
learned that this week. So allowing Gavin to do a lot of sports and then having him pick two, and now Abel is into dance, and allowing
mm-hmm.
her to be free in doing that, and understanding that this is healthy, this is a healthy thing. um so that's
Yeah, and that's something too that we've definitely carried along, and my mom is making sure we carry it into our family. Is like always doing something,
Always sending us something.
doing something, like having the kids active. And that's something that we just always did. I've never talked to her about why she always had us doing something, or me and her doing something. We did.
She said
so
because
many
I
things.
asked her, she said because you were the only child.
She just felt guilty that I didn't have.
Not so much guilty, but she wanted you to have interactions with people,
Mhm.
and because, of her hearing impairment at the time.
But man, we just always were doing something, and she's making sure that our kids are always doing something.
Mhm.
But that is important, and I'm glad that I feel a pressure. Like, I don't always want to go outside with the kids, and I don't always want to do those things. I don't always want to go somewhere or take them somewhere, but is that was instilled in me. I feel a pressure to get them to do something, and I think it's important for people to really like take heed to that. It's like, what are you feeling? Where does that come from?
Yeah.
If it's something that is good, then keep that going. If it's something that isn't so good, like you can let that stuff go too. Like,
Right.
we can let the ideas about you have to be with this kind of person or that kind, we can let that stuff go. We can let our kids learn who they are and understand who they are, so they can pursue the right person that understands who they are.
Mhm.
Like, we learn that. Now we're going to instill that in our kids. And I think it's just important to be intentional about what we know about ourselves and how we're going to move forward.
I hope the takeaway from this podcast is that people are able to maybe identify, rather single, married, or dating, what your roots are and your traditions and your foundation of who you are individually, and what have you brought over into those relationships, or what do you want to take over into your new relationships. Because you don't want everything to be one partner's, like come from one partner, because then the other person is silent.
Right.
They're living in your
world.
Lost
themselves.
They're living in your world, and that's not healthy.
Yep.
So,
and even if it's like me, that I don't have a lot of roots, and that a lot of our stuff does come from things that you guys have, but we figured out how to bring the things over that were important to me and incorporate them into the things we do. Yeah. Well, thanks for listening today. Please listen again. Listen, like, and subscribe, as Gavin says. He's going to say it here in a minute. Comment on Instagram, interact with us. We'd like to just keep the conversation going with everyone throughout the week. So we'll see you next week.
Bye.
We won't see you.
No.
We just won't see you at all.
No.
We're never going to see you.
You may hear from us next week.
All right. You'll hear from us next week.
Thank you for listening to Mix It Up with Kevin and Tenisha. Make sure you listen, like, and subscribe. Follow us on IG at Kevin and Tenisha. Stay tuned for more, and we'll see you all next time. Putting up with my mom and dad.